Hello friends, this is my YouTube channel, IT Pro. You can watch it for a strong foundation of information technology and promises you to give you conceptual knowledge in computer. Keep watching for latest videos. Every time I will come forward with the latest video in computer. Thank you.
Now in the previous video I introduced you to the concept of fill handles. I'll just do that one part. So I could highlight things like this, look for fill handle, and it fills up the numbers for me depending on what increments I wanted it to do. And it also does with Monday, it fills up the days of the week and also the months and the quarters. Now that is a nice feature of fill handle, but I want to introduce you to a better reason why you want to use fill handle is for calculations. So in this cell A7, what I want to do is simple math. I want to add 1 plus 2, and I want to put the result here. And up here I would like to do 2 plus 4, that will be 6, and 3 plus 6, and on and on. So up here I'm going to do equal, take my mouse, click on A5 because I want to add whatever is in the cell A5. We don't type 1 because we use cell reference, plus sign, and I use A6. Now you could have done the summation here too, but in this one it's only 2 cells, so I'll just do it simply. And I use check mark. Now instead of doing all of those calculations, you look for fill handle, left click and hold the left click on the mouse, and then you just drag. And you'll find that all the calculations are done. So let's click on this, and what I'm going to do is I'll go to formulas and I'll click on show formulas. So you can see the calculation A5 to A6 when next cell A became changed to B. But you see the row 5 and 6 didn't change because when you go sideways, fill handle understands that you are changing columns. So it changes the columns in the calculation, not the rows. You see 5 and 6 stays the same. B changes to C because it's in C. D changes, and then D changes to E. I'll turn the show formulas off again. I'll do up here a summation function. So I'll come back to home. You can use it from here, but I'll come back to home and I'll click on the sum, auto sum button, because I'm in line where my calculation is going. And you see it makes a guess. In this case the guess is right. I do want to sum all of them up, so I'll leave it as it is and I'll use check mark. Now I'll look for the fill handle and I'll copy it down, and now let's go back to formulas and then use show formulas, and I'll scroll sideways. So you see that whole sum calculation was copied down. However, when it changes the row in the calculation, when it went down, the 5 changes to 6 and the 6 changes to 7. So when you use fill handle down, it understands that you're going to the next row, so it will change the rows in the calculation and not the columns, because the columns G is the end and A is the first column. So this way, all I have to do is do the calculation one time and then just fill handle down. I'll press the show formula and I'll go sideways again. I'll do the step one more time. I'll click here. From the home, I click on auto sum, highlights everything, which is good. Now instead of using the fill handle like this, I can highlight it like that, and below the auto sum there's a fill button, and I can say go down. Now this only works for calculations. You cannot use it for these words. It only works when you have a calculation. So fill handle is very practical. Now what I've done is I've added a new sheet, and on this sheet I have an example. I'm going to increase the zoom a little. So this example will bring in all the things we've talked about from the first video together. So I've got an example here in which there are products, shirt, pant, jacket. There's a regular price and there's some discount on it. Certain dollar amount is to be removed. So I need to figure out what is my sale price. And there are 2 different types of taxes that I need to figure out. Say for example, there could be only be 1. And then I need to figure out what is the total. So sale price, which is equal, so you always have to do equal to do calculation. Now in your mind, you should know the math part. So if I know sale price is equal to the regular price, I click on the cell which has the regular price. I don't care that it is B2. You need to make sure you click on the cell and then minus discount, because you went in the store, the price is 55 and I need to remove $10 from it. So this is the calculation and I use the check mark, and there it is, 45, which is right, and there's my formula. Now the tax, which is 4.5%, 4.5% of what? Of the sale price. So I'll click equal sale price multiplied by 4.5 and the percentage symbol, which is shift and 5. Or you could type 0.45, which is 4.5 divided by 100, which is, I think, 0.45. So you can type that too if you want. No, to be 0.045 if you wanted to type it like that. Now I'll use check mark. So that is the tax which needs to be added to the sale price. The second tax is 3.5%. So I put equal sale price multiplied by 3.5%. And I use the check mark. And there it is. Now what is my total pay? My total pay is sale price plus the taxes. So I can just highlight it like this. And I can hit the auto sum. And there it is. If I click on this cell, it shows me that it does the calculation, summation of D2 all the way up to F2. Now I highlight all of my calculations and I can use the fill handle. You have to be careful here that you only highlight what you need to fill handle, because I don't want to highlight this, because these are my numbers. Somebody actually entered it. So if you do fill handle like that, numbers below it may start to change. So be careful here. Just highlight your calculations, look for fill handle, and copy it all down. And there it is. I have all of my calculations done. I can highlight all my numbers, just the numbers, and I can hit this dollar sign. Now we will put a dollar symbol including the .00. You can click in this drop down button and you see there are different symbols like pound, euro, Chinese, French, and you can go to more and you'll find in the more button there are lots of other symbols, and then from the symbol here you can choose whatever kind you want. And there are many different symbols available. And you can also choose the decimal places. How many decimal places do you want? You can change the decimal places even from here using this symbol, increase or decrease. You ever change your mind about the symbols? You can just change this word accounting here back to general. We'll talk about this a little bit more again. So that's the dollar symbol. I'll use one more example. So you can actually pause the video and type these examples if you wanted to do this. I'll just increase the bit here. So in this example, I've got some people who are working. So somebody worked 35 hours, 40 hours, and they're making $18 an hour, $20 an hour. So I need to figure out how much total pay they made. And there are some taxes that I need to figure out. And then I need to figure out how much money they're going to take home. So gross pay is equal to hours multiplied by the number of hours. So that is, they work 35 hours and they make $18 an hour. So I need to multiply that, not addition, because that'll be a problem. They need to be paid multiplication. And then I can use the check mark. So that's the total. Now I go to the next line. You could do the fill handle for every column. However, it's better to do it all together once you finish that whole line. So tax A is 3%. 3% of what? 3% of the pay. So I do equal pay multiplied by 3%, or 0.03 if you wanted to just type the 0.03 rather than the percentage. Check mark. Tax B is equal to pay multiplied by 2.5%. And then tax 3, so I go to that cell, equal pay multiplied by 8%. And I'll use the check mark. Now what is my net pay? My net pay is the gross pay minus all the taxes. So this is where you can start thinking of the brackets, because I'll do equal gross pay minus, and I'll start the bracket, and I'll put all the taxes together in the bracket. So you see, this is a little easier to understand when somebody looks at it, that D2 is what? The gross pay minus E2, which is tax, F2 and G2. So all the taxes have been added together in the bracket, and now I'm going to remove it all together. You will get the right answer if you did D2 minus E2 minus F2 minus G2. However, it just looks very complicated when somebody looks at it. And I'll use the check mark, enter, and there's my result. Now, you could do the sum here too if you wanted to for the taxes. So I'll show you another variation. So I do equal gross pay minus summation of, and I start the bracket. Now, when you are doing calculations like this with sum, you cannot use the auto sum. The auto sum is only good when you are only doing summation. When you're doing combinations of summations or combination with something else, that is not really useful. So now I do D2 minus sum, start the bracket, I highlight the three taxes, and I close the bracket. So either way, this will work. Just remember, whenever you have a range, you have to have a function in front of it, because the computer has no clue what is it that you wanted to do with that range. I'll use check mark. Now I can highlight all of my calculation, not the numbers, just the calculations. Look for fill handle, and I copy it down. And if I want, again, I can put the dollar signs on it. Even up here, I can highlight it, and I can put the dollar sign. Now the benefit of Excel is that, say if I realize that this guy John had worked, say, 38 hours and not 35, so I just change the number to 38, and I can use the check mark, enter here. As soon as I did that, you see all the other numbers changed, because all of these cells have the cells in their calculations, not the actual numbers. So anytime these numbers change, everybody else will start to change. So if I change this 20 to 21, and as soon as I hit enter, all these numbers will start to change. And there it is. And if I wanted to print any of my sheets, all of these are called sheets, I can go to File, and then I can choose Print. And then in the print, it shows me the print preview here in the corner, and I can choose to print. By default, it will only print the active sheet, and you can change this to print the entire workbook. Entire workbook means all the sheets, and you can also choose to print selection, because sometimes you don't want to print the whole sheet. You can just highlight a few rows or cells, and it will only print what you had selected, and you can choose how many copies you want here. So I can go back here. So if you had highlighted something and you go back to File and Print, you can choose to print only the selection, and you see it only shows me the two here on the right side. So that's it.
Thank you. Thanks for watching my videos. And if you like this video, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon.